I love this thing. I really do. I hate it that we're getting rid of it. I hate that they're...
You love everything aesthetic?
I wanted to love it so much, and they ruined it. Behind me is my wife and I's Rivian R1S, and I wanted to tell you guys the story about this car because it's leaving today under the lemon law. Well, not quite the lemon law. Rivian has agreed to buy the car back. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of the story in case you're in the market for a Rivian, the good, the bad, and the ugly from start to finish with this thing. I'll start with the good. I absolutely love the car, and so does my wife. It does everything that it says it's supposed to do. It's fast, it's comfortable, the tech in it is awesome, the cameras are incredible, it looks cool, like everything about it, the reasons that we bought it are still true. I love the adjustable ride height, I just love the car. And I really had high hopes that this was gonna be a really, really great car. And so we leased this thing, I think we had a 2-year lease on it, and we had it for about 4 months before we started to have some issues with it. And they were relatively minor issues at first. So on Easter, it threw a bunch of codes on the dash. We don't really know what happened with it, but it was driving fine. So my wife pulled over. I was driving behind her in another car, and she said, hey, should I pull over or keep driving this thing? And I said, well, is it driving okay? And she said, yes, it's probably just a computer reboot thing. Let it go. A little bit later, those lights went out. So we didn't think anything of it. 4 days after that, though, she went downstairs, got in the car in the garage to grab something, and our garage is kind of tight, so she shut the door so she didn't accidentally hit the door off of the wall. And the car locked her in, so it totally shut itself down and basically bricked itself. No doors would open from the inside or from the app. She had her phone and she was pressing the open button, lock button, unlock button, all that stuff. Absolutely nothing happened. The car was completely dead. And she called me. I was at lunch. She was panicking. And she told me, I said, did you try the emergency release handles? And she said, yes. She still couldn't get out. So she was freaking out because she was stuck in the car. She ends up getting the hatch to open. It was the only part of the car that would respond. So she got that open and was able to crawl out of the hatch in the garage. And she was very upset about it. Now, it turns out the emergency release handles on the door did actually work once I got home. But then I thought, they never told us that those exist when they gave us the car. So when they drop the car off and kind of go over it, you'd think that a really important part of that would be, hey, if you ever get stuck in the car, if you were in an accident and the thing's on fire or whatever, this is how you get out. I know that because we work on cars and we work on Rivians a lot and Teslas, and we know that there's an emergency, like a cable release handle. She didn't know that. So whether that was a mistake on the guy that dropped it off's part, or if that's not Rivian policy to make sure that you know that those exist, that was like a really scary thing for me. So the reason that we bought this car is because I recently had twins, and I have another son that's 5 years old. So we have 3 kids in car seats, and we needed 3 rows. So then I started thinking, well, if Rivian didn't tell us about that escape hatch, or, you know, the escape handle, and the car was in an accident or caught on fire, my family was in the car, is it possible that they would have died or burned alive or whatever because they simply didn't know that existed? Now, should we have read the manual or whatever? Yeah, but nobody does that. When's the last time you read the manual to your car? It should be part of the delivery process, in my opinion. So the delivery process aside, we were having problems with the car. So Rivian sends a tech out to the house, which is cool, and they try to troubleshoot it. And that tech determined that this is not something that can be fixed on the fly. He told us that the car has 2 brains, one for the left side, one for the right side, and that one of them was dead. Now, why the entire car didn't work originally, I don't know, but at the time that he came to look at it, half of the car worked, the passenger side. The driver's side did not work. The car was not drivable, it was not usable, so they agreed to tow the car back to the service center. From that moment to the time that it got to the service center, there was a lot of time that elapsed because they didn't want to agree to tow the car back to us. They said it was part of their service agreement that we had to pick up the car. The problem with that is that the car had less than 800 miles on it at that time, and the service center was in Cleveland. I live outside of Pittsburgh to the east. We're hours away from Cleveland, and we wouldn't be able to get it there on one charge, and our babies at that point were really too young to spend that many hours in the car unless absolutely necessary. So we had to kind of fight with them back and forth to get them to agree to tow it. They did eventually do it, but they said, hey, this is a one-time courtesy. As a customer, I'm feeling like, why is this a one-time courtesy? This is a brand new car that costs $80-some thousand new. Why is it having problems this quickly, and why am I responsible for getting it back to me if it's your fault? The positive side of this, customer service team from Rivian has been really, really good to deal with, as far as they're really kind, they're really polite, and they got out of their way more than once to make sure that it did get towed, even though apparently it's against their policy, and they also always got us a rental car, but everything was a fight. The rental car, they said, hey, we'll get you a rental. Well, we need 3 rows. That's the reason we have this car. It's the only 3-row vehicle we have. So we had to fight with them to get a 3-row rental. And then they had the car for weeks, and we had that rental for weeks and they paid for it, so that part of it wasn't a big deal. But then, then they bring the car back and basically it's not fixed. It still has the same problem, kind of. It at least drove now, but it threw codes and it was doing weird things, and the steering wheel was now crooked. The alignment was off. And so we let them know that immediately that the alignment was off. Now, in the meantime, the car got hit. I think it actually got hit before it went to the service center the first time, but after we told them about the problems. So we tell them about the problems, then the car's sitting in a parking lot and somebody was pulling into the parking lot and they love tapped the rear quarter. So the back passenger side quarter of the car got a dent in it. No structural damage, there was no speed to it whatsoever. It was like probably a 3-mile-per-hour collision while somebody was pulling into a parking lot. I was in a restaurant eating and somebody came in and said, hey, somebody just hit your car. It goes to the body shop in the meantime. Now this is just luck. This has nothing to do with Rivian, of course, but it goes to the body shop. Everything at the body shop goes smoothly. Then it goes back to the Rivian service center to fix the problem that they didn't fix originally. This time around, Rivian blames the body shop. They said, hey, the body shop didn't put the rear bumper on correctly. That's why the sensors on the front bumper aren't working. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I've been working on cars for a long time. I sincerely doubt that sensors for the front bumper are located in the rear bumper. I talked to the body shop. Body shop said, no, that's not possible. Let's talk to Rivian. So they talked to Rivian. They smoothed that over, and eventually Rivian said, oh, yeah, you're right. They didn't mess that up. We're going to go ahead and fix it. They go ahead and fix it, bring the car back to us. This is multiple weeks at this point that we haven't had the car, and guess what? When it shows up, we take it 2 miles down the road, and it still has the same problem. It's throwing codes, it's doing weird things. When I say weird things, the ride height is self-adjusting as you're going down the road, and it's switching from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive on its own with no rhyme or reason as to why that's happening. So, the steering wheel is still crooked. The alignment is still off as well. We tell Rivian that that's the case. They send a technician out to the house. The technician shows up and tells me that he's here to fix the alignment. I've been around cars a long time. You probably are not going to fix the alignment in my driveway, but whatever. The tech kind of acknowledged that as well. He worked outside in 95-degree weather on black asphalt for 3 to 4 hours to try to fix the alignment before coming to the conclusion that he can't fix this. It has to go back to the service center. Again, they send a truck. They pick it up and take it back to the service center. Now, every time they did this and they towed it, I'm thankful that they towed it, but they sent, it was just a towing company out on the job board. This was not somebody that worked for Rivian, and if you've ever dealt with that, they're usually not very good. They spoke basically no English. I couldn't really communicate with them, and at one point, one of them showed up in an F-150 with a flatbed trailer, and if you know anything about hauling cars, the F-150 might be rated to handle that, but it probably shouldn't be. You should probably be using a heavy duty or super duty to haul, and so they take the car again. This time around, they said, hey, we're not towing it back to you. We're going to drive it back to you. And that's what they wanted to do the whole time. We kept insisting that they tow it because it was a lease. We have limited miles. We didn't want to put those hundreds of miles every single time it had to go back and forth to the body shop. This time we said, okay, fine, you can drive it back if you give us some compensation at the end of the lease. They agreed to do that. They drive it back to our house, and this is the final time that we got the car back. The driver gets out of the car, and I realize that he's standing on the side of the road for quite some time. And I live in a very small town outside of Pittsburgh. We're 50 miles outside of Pittsburgh. I asked him, how are you getting back? Didn't you have a chase car? And he said, no chase car. I'm getting a lift. We don't have lifts here that are going to take you to Cleveland. Very rarely can you find a Lyft or an Uber in the town that I'm in, LATROBE, to take you any sort of distance. And so he was waiting around and waiting around. Eventually, I brought him a bottle of water and said, hey, can I drive you to a Starbucks while you're waiting on something so that you're not standing out here in the sun? He agreed to that, and I don't know how he got back, but I thought, man, that is a super unprofessional look that Rivian is dropping the car off, and then their driver has absolutely no way to get home. It just seemed odd to me. And it was no big deal to take the guy for a ride. It was just weird. And so at this point, we're like deep into email conversations and phone conversations with a couple of managers that are like levels up from the service center. When we got it back from the service center originally, they also told us that they fixed the drive unit. They said they fixed the noise that was coming from the drive unit. That was their solution for the problem. And we never had a problem with the drive unit or a noise. We had a dash light sensor problem. And so that, to me, that's probably the reason that it never got fixed right in the first place, was because they fixed the wrong part. It just seems like there was a total lack of communication between management and the people working on the car. Again, everybody's been really polite the whole process, but I still have a broken car. The crazy part of all of this, it is now, September 2nd. This happened on Easter, so however many months that is, 4 or 5 months. They have been working on this car, and they still don't have it right. So they brought the car back again. That was the time that the gentleman needed a ride back. They finally fixed the alignment. It is straight, it goes straight, that's great, but it still throws weird codes and sensors for the front bumper. It's still adjusting the ride height, and it is still switching from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive on its own with no rhyme or reason. In addition to that, there's a whole new problem in the front left of the car. It is making this horrible clicking sound that it sounds like a mix of an old house creaking and two plastic gears rubbing on each other and just slipping. And so it's very disconcerting when you're driving it again, especially with the family in the car. You're wondering, is this thing safe? Are the front sensors, the safety sensors, working or not? Because the codes keep coming on and off, so you don't really have any faith in that. And it's making all kind of crazy noises, like is the strut going to fall off of the car or something like that? Well, I don't know. So overall, this particular R1S is a problem. Now, I don't know if they all are. Prior to it breaking, I loved the car. If it wasn't for these little issues with it here and there, I would still love the car. The company, responsive, but didn't do the right stuff. And the final nail in the coffin for me, and probably the reason I decided to make this video, is this. At the end of all of this, they've agreed to buy the car back. We appreciate that because we have no faith or trust in this car anymore. And my wife says, I'm not taking my family in this. So now we're stuck with a lease that we really can't use, right? They've agreed to buy it. Thank you. They've agreed to pay every single payment that we paid on the car, minus a small deduction for mileage. All of that's great. And they even paid for the paint protection film. Now, I didn't charge them retail price for that because I own a shop that does it, but they paid for the material cost that I have in putting the PPF wrap on this car. I thought all of that was great. Now we have to get the car back to the service center at our expense, even though the car is broken. I have to drive it there or tow it there. Whatever, I'll concede on that. But the craziest thing about the whole thing is the only reason this car had to go to Ohio was because it was broken and it was under warranty. They trailered the car. Somehow we got invoices from Ohio Turnpike to pay tolls. I don't understand if the trailer that the car was on didn't have a license plate or whatever reason the trailer didn't end up having to pay for that, but they hit us with the toll. Rivian won't pay the toll. It's a $40, I think it's a $33 problem. After they're giving us $16,000 back. $33 problem, they won't take care of it. Their final stance is no, we won't do that. You're responsible for the tolls and the towing. And so at the end of the day, I love the car. Rivian's management has made some questionable decisions through this, and the car is just not good enough to keep. And it is really a shame because I wanted to love it, but I wanted to tell you guys about my experience because I thought that the way that they ended it without even covering the tolls and without covering the towing was absolutely ridiculous, and I thought that I should let you guys know that. In summary, and this is going to sound crazy, I talked to my wife about this yesterday. We both agreed we would buy another Rivian, but only if the service center was close enough that it was reasonable. And so maybe that's our fault. We bought it with the service center too far away, but we didn't expect a car with 800 miles to have that many problems on it. The reason we say we would buy one again is because in the event that there's a service center close enough and they could give us a Rivian loaner while they were using this one, it would have eliminated the rental car problems. It would have eliminated the towing conversations back and forth. It would have eliminated their driver not having a ride and a lot of the problems that we had. And so even though it would have been in the shop a lot, we would have still had another Rivian, another third row vehicle, and we wouldn't have had to fight. We wouldn't have to drive to a rental car place. The only place I could get a third row was 50 miles away at one point. Wouldn't have had to do any of that stuff if they were able to just get us a Rivian without putting a bunch of extra miles on the car. Now, I own an Expel shop, and we actually work with Rivian. We're one of their shops that works with the Rivian program. If you're able to purchase PPF or whatever through Rivian, we can install that. So hopefully they don't get too mad at me for posting this, but that's the way it is. I want to give you honest, real feedback of the car. We love it. Don't love the service center and the way that their service has been handled, and mostly their communication. And at the end of the day, pay the freaking toll for us. You're already giving us all of our money back. Just pay the toll. It was your trailer that didn't get the toll. We don't know why. Thank you guys for tuning in. Maybe Rivian will help us out, and I don't know. We're probably not going to replace it with another Rivian, though. Keep you updated with what's coming next.